Hello and welcome. This is Nationwide on the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, Africa's largest TV network. I am Bintu Aliu Sumonu. Now on PVC collection date, the Independent National Electoral Commission has reconsidered its stand on the deadline for the collection of permanent voter card. Mayor Ogide reports on the Commission's position.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, commenced the continuous voters registration exercise in 2017 and ended in August 2018. And within this period, more than 14.2 million persons were registered. After the closure of that exercise, the collection of the permanent voters cards started, and February 8, 2019 was the deadline for the collection of those cards. But within this period, a lot of complaints have been addressed to the Independent National Electoral Commission from those that registered. Many of them cannot find their cards in the places of registration. Complaints also arise from transfer of cards from some citizens that their cards cannot be found in the places where they applied to be transferred to. So, the Independent National Electoral Commission has reconsidered its stand on the deadline for the collection of the permanent voters' cards.
The Commission has taken the following decisions. Number one, the collection of PVCs scheduled to end today, Friday 8 February 2019, is hereby extended nationwide to Monday 11th February 2019. This will include Saturday and Sunday from 9 in the morning to 6 p.m. daily. 3. All state offices are hereby directed to review the procedure for the collection of PVCs and dedicate all the staff of the local government offices to the collection process. Staff are enjoined to be civil in attending to citizens and to escalate issues that they cannot immediately resolve to their superiors.
After that statement from the INEC chairman, the doors were closed and journalists asked to step out as resident electoral commissioners and management staff of the Independent National Electoral Commission are meeting for the final review of their strategies ahead of the 2019 general elections. Mayor Ogide, NTA News.
Now, more sharing news now from the education sector as the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has suspended its 3-month industrial action effective from today, Friday, 8th February 2019. ASU and the federal government has trashed out all the 8 contending issues that led to the university strike that started on the 4th of November 2018.
Following a careful review of the report of engagements with the federal government on proposals for addressing all outstanding issues in the 2013 MOU and 2017 MOA, NEC resolved that the current strike action by the union should be suspended conditionally with effect from 12:01 a.m. on Friday, 8 February 2019.
And back on political stories now, the Adamawa State Council of Emirs and Chiefs has described the next level movement being championed by President Muhammadu Buhari as the most critical pathway towards sustaining the growth and development of Nigeria for greater future. Chairman of the Council and Lamido of Adamawa, Dr. Muhammadu Barkindo Aliyu Mustafa, who stated this while formally endorsing the second-term bid of the president, paid homage on the council members. State House correspondent Adam Sambu reports that President Buhari was also adopted as candidate of preference by Taraba State Council of Chiefs.
No one can deny the fact that Adamawa, the land of beauty, is the cynosure of all eyes as the forthcoming general elections draw closer. As the home state of the leading opposition candidate Atiku Abubakar, expectations are that the sweeping power of the broom may have its potency weakened, but this is not the case. The enthusiastic love and affection for President Muhammadu Buhari by the people of Adamawa is, to say the least, beyond politics. And if you must know, this is the birthplace of the president's wife, Aisha Buhari, and the governing APC is where almost everyone that matter in the politics of Adamawa now belongs. On hand to receive the president at the Fombina Palace of the Adamawa Emirate were paramount traditional rulers from across the state, led by Lamido Fombina, Dr. Muhammadu Barkindo Aliyu Mustafa. Speaking on their behalf, the Lamido described as fulfilling and reassuring the revolutionary initiatives of the Buhari presidency, which he said can only be sustained for greater impact through continuity.
I would therefore like to use this opportunity on behalf of my humble self, members of my council, and the entire people of Adamawa to acknowledge with immeasurable thanks and congratulate you on keeping faith with the contract you entered with our people and indeed Nigerians. Mr. President, there is no doubt that much has been achieved during your present tenure, but certainly you need more time to actualize your dream for a better Nigeria. This therefore calls for all and sundry to rally around you and allow you to get to the next level to enable you consolidate the various laudable programs of your party.
Being the Commander-in-Chief, if necessary, I will read the Riot Act to the law enforcement agencies about making sure that people are respected, they are allowed to go and vote whom they like across the parties. I assure the Lamido that I value that because we are people who benefited from free and fair election.
The Buhari passion was also rekindled in Taraba State, the nature's gift to the nation. This is where the governing APC is actualizing the 3,050 megawatts Mambila hydropower project abandoned for decades in spite of its significant benefits to the socio-economic development of the state and the country. Consequently, the major road in Jalingo, the state capital, was therefore overflowed by a sea of humanity with a mission to show love, affection, appreciation, and indeed commitment to the broom revolution as the president came calling. The presence of Governor Darius Ishaku of the PDP notwithstanding, the Taraba State Council of Traditional Rulers endorsed the re-election bid of President Muhammadu Buhari, which they attributed to his credibility, good intentions, sense of pity for the less privileged, selflessness in service, and continued sacrifice for a greater Nigeria.
We have given you your trust, and in the 4 years, we are witnesses that you have kept the trust. This country now is in dire needs of people who are out to make sacrifices as you do. Nigeria must be corrected and must be corrected now, and you are the right person to do it.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who acknowledged the show of public support, reassured the people of Taraba that their faith in the governing APC will never be in vain. The broom revolution has so far been reinforced in 29 states of the Nigerian Federation. Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, says Victory is assured for the re-election of President Buhari in view of the successes of his administration, particularly in fighting insurgency in the northeast. Boss Mustafa was among party stalwarts at the APC presidential rally held in Yola, Adamawa State, and reiterated the focused leadership of Buhari administration for working the talk by ensuring peace in the zone and Adamawa State, where about 3 local governments were hitherto controlled by the Boko Haram. He acknowledged the overwhelming show of love and support by the people of Adamawa State, expecting that and APC
campaign team visited the palaces of the rulers in Buhari Area Council in continuation of the door-to-door campaign, canvassing support for the re-election of President Muhammad Buhari in the forthcoming election. The first port of call was the palace of the Sarki of Buhari, Awal Musa Ijakoro II. The message of the wife of the president soliciting the traditional ruler and his people to cast their vote in favor of President Muhammad Buhari. She used the occasion to call on the leaders to continue to educate the youth in the area not to engage in any form of violence before, during and after February polls. The team was engaged vigorously in voter education.
We believe it's going to be 100% for General Muhammadu Buhari.
These are APC women, and they are assuring Baba Buhari that come February 16th, they will come out en masse as we have seen them now.
The Sarki of Buhari, Awal Musa Ijakoro II, assured them of their full support. The welfare of Nigeria.
Fought with Buhari goodwill ambassadors and foot soldiers stormed the city of Kaduna and in the campaign, canvassing support for President Buhari's re-election. Members of the team took time to demonstrate to the traders how to vote without destroying the ballot paper. Same was demonstrated at the Sheikh Abubakar Gumi Central Market. While on voter enlightenment, NTA's Executive Director News, Mohamed Labo, and commended him for the initiative. Earlier on arrival to the state, the Ford with Buhari team was received by Governor Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, who promised to add value to the campaign.
Interacting with ordinary people, engaging in voter education, and mobilizing people to vote for APC from top to bottom. This is something we identify with, we support.
Part of the message he gave us was to come and thank the people of Kaduna State for honoring him with that mammoth crowd in Ahmadu Bello Stadium, and to also tell people that it is not just to attend the rally at Ahmadu Bello Stadium, but to ensure you have a voter's card and then you know how to exactly vote for him and his party. Yes, that is our mission here today.
The campaign train is expected to visit other states of the Federation. In Kaduna, Benny Adams, NTA News.
And from the north, we move to the south, where President Muhammad Buhari has been assured of votes in Enugu State and the southeast during the February 16 presidential polls. This assurance was secured after a 5-day campaign mobilization tour of the 17 local government areas of Enugu State for the re-election of the president by Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyema. Correspondent Makurdi reports.
In the course of 5 days, Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyema led the Kusike political movement on a campaign tour of the 17 local government areas of Enugu State, primarily to canvass support for the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari and the APC. On the last day of the tour, the team visited and met with party members in Aniri, Oji River, Ezeagu and Udi local government areas. The minister and his entourage told the electorate that the APC presents the best chance for rapid transformation of the southeast and Nigeria as a whole.
Yeah, I feel very optimistic. You know, there's been a spontaneous outpouring of support for President Muhammadu Buhari, and I'm really very optimistic and hopeful that it will translate into concrete votes for him on February 16th.
Once the message is preached, I can see it is well received. And the only way that can be demonstrated is on the 16th day of February, when you see a very massive turnout, and what will eventually become the outcome of the votes cast in the southeast, particularly in Enugu State, where Geoffrey Yama comes from.
As consistent with the campaign tour, the minister and his team paid homage to traditional rulers to solicit their support and that of their subjects towards ensuring success for the APC. At his hometown in Udi, the minister received...
Don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
My Niger people, make we make the right choice, yo. Make we vote for a man of integrity. Hey, and so make we gather together and make this change. Work, my people of Nigeria. Together we go carry Niger to the next level. Niger don't decide. Vote Baba Buhari. Baba Buhari, the man of integrity. We no go chop our money. Hey, agriculture to the next level, fight corruption to the next level, good roads to the next level, electricity to the next level, railway with the next level, empower to the next level, that money for good health we go. Baba Buhari, my people, for the next level. APC, next level. Niger people, make we all come out to vote Baba Buhari.
This message is from Buhari Next Level Group.
Her Excellency, wife of the President and chairperson of the APC Women and Youth Presidential Campaign Team, Dr. Aisha Buhari, cordially invites the general public to a solidarity walk for Buhari. Meet-up point, Unity Fountain, Maitama, Abuja. Date, Saturday 9th February 2019. Time, 7 a.m. Please come in comfortable outfit as we will be walking from Unity Fountain to Eagle Square in solidarity with President Muhammadu Buhari. Announcer, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, Chairman, Central Working Committee of APC Women and Youth Presidential Campaign Team.
Nigerian women, una dey there. Market women, una dey there. Time we don't reach where we go pay back. Person we make life better, make we vote now. Who give us electricity? President Buhari. Airport, President Buhari. Railway, President Buhari. Peace and security, President Buhari. They feed our children, President Buhari. For school, President Buhari. Better road, President Buhari. 4+4, President Buhari. Job creation, President Buhari. Empower, President Buhari. Trade and money, President Buhari. Nigerian women, time we don't reach where we
NY, Ajia Salamatu Bewa, National Woman Leader.
You're still watching Nationwide on NTA. Now, more political support groups have continued to give reasons why President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure should be renewed. True Nigeria for Buhari is the latest among such groups, which says it is impressed with the purposeful leadership demonstrated within the first tenure of the Buhari administration. Salihu Abdullahi reports.
Consisting of some eminent grassroots politicians, True Nigerians for Muhammadu Buhari is a political support group who believes more can be done if the current passion for development as being championed by President Muhammadu Buhari is sustained beyond 2019. President Buhari administration, they admit, is doing more with less resources, an indication for an even brighter future for the country.
We have to support our great ruling party, that is the APC, and the Buhari Osinbajo's administration to enable them to continue the good work they are currently doing for the benefit of all Nigerians. We are optimistic that Buhari Osinbajo administration will lead us to an inviolable height of development among the Committee of Nations.
Nigerian voters have the right and obligation to freely vote the leaders to run this country at all levels. President Muhammadu Buhari said this particularly because he wants to stabilize, help in everything that will make Nigeria peaceful and stable politically.
In the same vein, the national coordinator of another group, Nigeria for Buhari again, Taufik Olayinka, says President Buhari remains the best man to secure the nation's treasury, as showcased so far.
We have resolved to have over 6 million votes across all the polling units in Nigeria through our states, LGAs, and ward executives across the entire country.
The group promised to mobilize votes for the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi, NTA News.
Similarly, the People's Democratic Movement, PDM, has reiterated its resolve to support the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari in the forthcoming presidential election. The national chairman of the PDM, Shehu Musa Eradwa's political movement, Senator Abubakar Mahdi, re-echoed the association's position when he spoke to NTA News crew in Abuja.
While individuals are at liberty to support or vote for any candidate of their choice, Shehu Musa Eradwa political movement has already endorsed President Muhammadu Buhari of APC for re-election in the forthcoming presidential election coming up on the 16th of February 2019. Our members, under the directive of the respective state chairman, local government chairman, ward chairman, and polling unit mobilizers should continue mobilizing for votes for President Muhammadu Buhari as directed by our national body.
The movement, therefore, disassociates itself from any other presidential candidate. Let's now join Jennifer in Lagos for stories trending in that zone.
Thank you, Bintu, and welcome to Lagos. Nigerian women have charged the electorate to come out en masse and vote for President Muhammadu Buhari and all APC candidates during the elections. Abolore Ogbara reports that the women, under the umbrella of APC, embarked on a road show in Lagos.
APC women from local government areas and wards in Lagos turned out in their numbers for this rally. which is to sensitize residents on the need for them to get their permanent voter cards and carry out their civic duties in order to elect a leader with integrity to steer the ship of governance for the next 4 years. The women walked through Jibowu, Ikorodu Road and several streets in the Lagos metropolis.
We want all our women to come out so that they know that they have a role to play in the political class. We have educated our people to know that without APC, you cannot vote leaders of your choice into power.
Some leaders of the women group, while highlighting the successes recorded by the Buhari's administration, called more female involvement in politics, as this will go a long way in alleviating poverty and eliminating marginalization.
When you look at market money or trade money, women are the most people in the market, and to encourage them, to encourage their trade, the government is already doing that.
To take time off, propagate the party, and I know it's not about the party, it's about the struggle that we women are going through.
The APC women in Lagos have also charged youths to shun electoral violence before, during and after the elections. The road show was a platform for APC women to remind the female folks of their role in nation building. In Lagos, Abolore Ogbara, NT News.
If Africa is to embrace development, it must enjoy a lengthy period of political stability that is garnished with integration into the global economy. These were the submissions of speakers at the Center for Value and Leadership in Lagos. Kenny Beluge reports that former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, and President of Liberia, who was represented, had inputs at the forum.
The advent of the wave of democracy in the early 1990s brought renewed hope that Africa was on the threshold of institutional change and improved governance. By the end of the 1990s, virtually the whole of the sub-Saharan Africa had held one form of elections or another. Several years down the line, the hopes of a reformed and democratic Africa seems to be waning as electoral processes in Africa are marred with diverse problems. It is against this background that these personalities discussed the topic, is democracy making life better in Africa?
By our collective resolve to continue to vote and ensure that our votes count.
For more than a decade now, we have introduced a variety of systems to guard against corruption and ensure transparency. Anti-graft institutions, such as the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission.
What we should be doing and thinking about is the future. And I think we already did something beautiful in 2015. We should consolidate on that and look beyond just people winning and losing elections.
To help change the narrative, Speaker suggested that African countries should not merely view democracy in terms of infrastructural development, but should concentrate in developing human capacity.
We must begin, to build the people, to organize the people. Not the leaders. The leaders will be compelled. Once we have educated those who believe it is normal to steal government money and then you become Babake.
Consensus, therefore, is that Africa should design its own approach to democracy and make efforts towards self-governance. In Lagos, Ken Igbeluge, NTA News.
Now, the Apapa Area Command of Nigeria Customs Service says it generated over 400 billion naira in 2018. Briefing the media on the activities of the command in Lagos, the controller, Bashiru Abubakar, said 95% of the revenue target for 2018 was achieved by the command. Paul Omukago tells us more.
The revenue generated by the Apapa Area Command is an improvement on 350.9 billion naira recorded in 2017, attributing the increase in revenue to the selfless stance of officers and men in line with ongoing reforms. The controller, Bashir Abubakar, underscored the need for enforcement on matters of compliance. He also spoke on fortifying the anti-smuggling arm of the service with the provision of relevant operational tools.
Where there are anomalies, they must be corrected. And the Controller General has given a mandate this year that there should not be any loss of life on any custom officer henceforth. And he repeated that, meaning that whatever we are going to do to defend ourselves in the course of doing our job, we should do it.
The command also recorded over 1.2 billion metric tons of exported goods valued at over 70.1 billion naira. 5 officers were specially honored for contributing to the success of the command in 2018. In Lagos, Paul Omukago, NTA News.
Those are the stories from Lagos at this hour. Back to Bintu in Abuja for more on Nationwide.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now let's continue with more political reports. As the 2019 general elections draws nearer, the need for Nigerians to vote for credible candidates that will guarantee the future of the next generation is on the front burner. This was the submission of a non-governmental organization known as Integrity Support International Association. The report.
Integrity Support International Association, established to support credible candidates with integrity, irrespective of political parties, believes now is the time that Nigerians need to make wise decisions on the kind of leaders they want. The group, which resolved to support the re-election bid of President Muhammadu Buhari, urged Nigerians to play politics according to the rules.
We are appealing to all Nigerians that politics is like sportsmanship. It is not a do-or-die affair. If it is not your turn today, it may be your turn tomorrow or your loved ones. We should vote with our eyes opened, looking beyond what will benefit us temporarily. For the destiny of our dear children and our great country, Nigeria, lies in our hands.
The group also called on youths to shun all forms of social vices before, during, and after the forthcoming elections.
Similarly, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, Nasarawa State Chapter, has vowed to vote in favor of President Muhammadu Buhari in the forthcoming election. The association made this position known as the flag-off of the dry season rice farming input distribution exercise in Kefi. Suraj Abdullahi reports.
In past, we talked about Nigeria government not listening to farmers. I think one of the government that is now to listen to the farmers' cry is this very government. So we must look into it.
This gesture has prompted the rice farmers in Nasarawa State to make it a point of duty to cast their vote for President Muhammadu Buhari and APC in the forthcoming general elections. The farmers lauded the Uncle Borrower program, which they say can only be sustainable if President Muhammadu Buhari is re-elected for the second term.
I'm grateful I benefited from the rainy season farming, of which I got a lot. And now I'm invited for the dry season. I want to thank the President of Nigeria.
We are running up and down for this program. I'm very happy where we succeeded from today.
15,000 rice farmers to benefit from this dry season rice farming inputs distribution, in addition to 30,000 farmers who have earlier benefited from the rainy season exercise. From Kefi, Suraj Abdullahi, NTA News.
And Pam is standing by in our Makurdi Network Center for more stories on Nationwide. Pam?
Thanks, Bintu, and welcome to Makurdi. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has described a relative peace in Benue State as the evidence of answered prayers. The Vice President said this at the 15th National Biennial Conference of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, PFN, holding in Makurdi.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who is an ordained pastor of the Christian Church of God and member of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, said the church must stand on the path of truth and righteousness if Christians are to be true to their calling. Professor Osinbajo said, away from flood disaster and farmers' headers crisis that Benue experienced in the past, the state now enjoys relative peace because of the prayers of the faithful. Vice President Osinbajo called on the congregation to pray for their leaders as the Bible directs. Christian leaders, led by the president of PFN, thanked God for the vice president who recently survived a helicopter crash. In Makurdi, Bem High News.
Prospective voters converged on the Entrepreneurship Center in Makurdi in a last-minute rush to collect their permanent voter cards. Charles Abba, who monitored the situation, reports that some of them say they are still hopeful of voting during the forthcoming elections.
The rush for collection of PVCs is informed by the deadline of the exercise on February 8, 2019. Mrs. Martina Timbe is one of the prospective voters who, despite the fracture in her arms, broke through the crowd to collect her PVC. This elderly man, Isaac Yowese and Henry Gege, expressed their persistent efforts to collect their own.
I was almost collapsed. If I can't do it, I will better go back because I have...
What does it take to get a PVC? And as you can look, there is no notice showing that you, if you are from this council road, line up here.
With the extension of the collection date to Monday, February 11, 2019, Head of Voter Education, INEC Benue State, Emmanuel Okwe says, the people will not be denied their civic responsibility.
The period of collection is now between 9 to 6 in the evening, including Sunday. Yes, starting from now.
With this development, many of the prospective voters will heave a sigh of relief as they say they hope to collect. In Makurdi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
Religious leaders have been challenged to use their offices to sensitize their congregation on election guidelines to ensure successful polls in the forthcoming general elections. State Coordinator Reclaim Niger Samuel Mtan emphasized this at a forum of religious frontliners in Makurdi, the Benue State capital.
Reclaim Niger is a non-governmental organization which has continued to partner INEC to educate the electorate on complying with electoral guidelines in the course of exercising their franchise. State coordinator of the organization, Samuel Mtan, who submitted that elections have improved over time, urged religious leaders to maintain neutrality and encourage their members to eschew violence during the forthcoming general elections.
The religious leaders have more structure in information dissemination than any other political party, and that is why they are a veritable tool, a veritable channel for us to use to get the message of electoral integrity to all Nigerians.
For this training, they are more equipped to go out there and educate their members for the forthcoming general elections.
Religious leaders, I believe, to be more respected within every given community. Therefore, today it is a challenge.
President of Muslim Women Associations in Nigeria, Form 1, Hajia Hawa Isa, explained that women are veritable tools in ensuring credible elections. A number of participants raised questions and observations on certain gray areas of election which were cleared by the organizers. In Makurdi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
And that will be it from Makurdi. Bintu, it's over to you now for the rest of Nationwide. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Pam. Now, NPower volunteers under the federal government social intervention program have pledged their support for the re-election bid of President Muhammadu Buhari. Olainka Ojo reports that volunteers from the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT held a rally in Abuja tagged Reef for Buhari.
If these empowered volunteers who converged on Abuja were asked 4 years ago what they wanted in life, most of them would crave for money, fame or fortune. Today, their story is that of renewed hope as their standard of living have been improved, courtesy of the empowerment program of the Buhari-led administration. This is the story of 34-year-old Dapil Samuel Ali, a graduate of special education and rehabilitation science from the University of Jos, and the third child in a family of 5. Though visually impaired, Samuel, now a teacher who is one of the 500,000 volunteers, said before the introduction of NPower, most establishments he applied to for job said he is not employable.
I serve at the Gindri Material Center for the Handicap as a transcriber of printed books to Braille for blind users.
Just like Samuel, other beneficiaries of the program were full of appreciation to the federal government for turning around their story from that of unemployed to gainfully employed youths.
They empowered me, I empower other people.
Today, I hold my own fish farm.
It has given me a passion to give back. We are in full support of Buhari Osibanjo administration. Say so be you.
Government functionaries at the Rape for Buhari program told the youths to vote for President Buhari in the February 16 election for continuity of the program towards ensuring more youths like Samuel and others benefit not only to be gainfully employed, but for them to be self-reliant and also employers of labor.
This government has fulfilled substantially its commitment and the pledge to fight corruption.
This is the highest and massive approach by any government in Africa to attack poverty. Nigerian youths, this is your moment. Take it. The choices are yours. You are part of the decision making in Nigeria today.
It was a night full of fun for the youths as different artists were on hand to entertain the gathering. Olayinka Ojo, NTA News.
Still on the campaign train, the presidential candidate of Alliance and National Party, Asiwaju Moshood Shitu, says the hopes and aspirations of Nigeria's founding fathers are realizable if the people would put aside their differences and work together as one individual entity. He was speaking while unveiling the party's core manifesto ahead of the February 16th presidential poll. Timothy Yusuf reports.
The presidential candidate notes that Nigerians are united in their desire to be governed only by their democratically elected representatives. It is in this direction that the party, he explains, believes that only urgent restoration of participatory democracy and social justice can return Nigeria back on track. The party's 11 core manifesto include facilitation of a rapid and sustainable development process through sound education, basic health care and food security.
The party shall strive through dialogue to ensure the entrenchment of true justice for all in our body politic.
Meanwhile, the president.
Well, sorry for cutting this report short as we are going outside for our live broadcast where the president is there standing for the live telecast to be on. Stay tuned.
Nigerians that walked the tightrope with the likes of Babatunde Joseph. I'd like to welcome Chief Olusegun Oshoba. I welcome you. Let me welcome the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Chief of Staff to the President. Let me welcome all of you. And we have abundance of very committed Nigerians. We have people from RIFAN. We have members of the Buhari support, changing the mandate, changing the landscape, and changing the psyche and mentality of Nigerians. The emphasis within the last 3 years have been to re-establish the nation on a positive trajectory of growth and development, rebalancing the economy, strengthening institutions, providing a conducive environment for the private sector, and rebuilding alliances with global development partners. No wonder all of us can beat our chests and said in the last 3 years, the country has moved away from a shifting sand to a firmer ground. And so, Your Excellencies, it's on that note I welcome all of you on behalf of the presidential media team to this presidential presentation of this book, Firmer Ground. But to kick us off, let me invite the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, to formally welcome all of us. You're welcome, sir.
Your Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the National Chairman of the APC, members of the Federal Executive Council, the Chairman of the occasion, ably represented, the book reviewer, and also the book presenter, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. With great delight, I welcome everyone to this auspicious ceremony of unveiling the landmark achievements of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration in a book titled Nigeria on Farmer Ground, Towards Lasting Peace and Progress. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you will recall that this administration took over the mantle of leadership in May 2015 and commenced work to set Nigeria on the right path for growth and development. Amongst other things, we promise to keep Nigerians adequately informed about progress on our three cardinal promises that will bring about change. In fulfillment of our determination to keep Nigerians informed, Mr. President, in October of 2018, launched a compendium containing the status report on policies, programs, and projects approved by the Federal Executive Council under his leadership from May of 2015 to 31st of December 2017. Mr. President, once again, we are here to witness the turning of another historical page in the repositioning of our great country, Nigeria. The document captures the physical manifestation of the change we promised Nigerians, who overwhelmingly gave us the opportunity about 4 years ago. We are proud and happy to report that we have delivered the change on many levels, and we are ready to take Nigerians to the next level. Today's event is about promises kept as dutiful servants of the people. Therefore, we have documented in clear, measurable, and verifiable format evidence of our collective efforts to move the nation forward. In pictures and text, we have chronicled an account of your stewardship, your plan to consolidate 4+4. Your Excellency, it is noteworthy that this is the second publication on your achievements in 4 years, put together by the Media Department of the State House. The first publication was presented as a midterm scorecard in 2017 titled Making Steady Sustainable Progress for Nigeria's Peace and Prosperity. As we have gotten closer to the 2019 general elections, Nigerians can now testify that your word indeed is your bond. Mr. President, the world acknowledges you as a man of integrity with so many recognitions for your uprightness and fairness. And with these records of achievement, the world will further celebrate your practicality, forthrightness, and dedication to the improvement of the livelihood of all Nigerians. Indeed, Congress, APC, made the right choice in asking you to recontest in 2019. Let me use this opportunity to commend the dedication of the staff of the Buhari Media Organization, who provided the legwork for the compilation of this publication. Please, can you stand as we give you a resounding applause for doing a wonderful job? Thank you for being steadfast. You can sit down. I also want to congratulate the presidential media team for successfully packaging and launching this second publication. Similarly, I wish to recognize the managing director of Euphoria Press, Alhaji Abdullahi Gire, who graciously printed 600 additional copies of this publication free of charge. I remember he extended the same courtesy with the first publication. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the chronicling of the landmark achievement of this administration is historical in every sense. The documentation will remind every Nigerian of our commitment to change, our quest to take change to the next level, and our determination to let history record us on the right side. Once again, Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the next level as we are all going higher. Thank you, and God bless you.
Well delivered. Can we appreciate him one more time as he steps forward down here? Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, apart from being probably one of the finest politicians on the continent, is the undoubted leader of the party. And he understands that the change period marks a major watershed in the political history of Nigeria. That the change agenda has set in motion a process that is ushering in a new era that is driven by hope, commitment, and democratic leadership. Only him understands a lot of this. It's therefore my pleasure to welcome Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, represented here by one of the finest broadcasters and communications person in the country, in the person of Mr. Dele Alake.
Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who needs no introduction to the international community, talk less of us, his citizens and subjects. Your Excellencies, the governors ably represented, honorable members of the Federal Executive Council here present, the national chairman of the party, APC, the indefatigable comrade Adams Oshiomhole, members of the diplomatic community here present, elders of the party, members of the Buhari Media Organization, the packagers of this event, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues in the media, and in the communication profession. I stand here representing Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is unavoidably absent. And you all know tomorrow we are hosting the president in Lagos for the Lagos version of the rally. And the Jagaban has to be on ground in Lagos to cross the T's and dot the I's. So he has graciously asked me to stand in for him and make a few remarks. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to be here for the presentation of the book titled Nigeria on Firmer Ground Towards Lasting Peace and Progress. President Muhammadu Buhari's administration has achieved much over the past years. It is good to publicly acknowledge these achievements as we near the coming elections. For the gains achieved by the Buhari administration underscore the historic nature of this election. It pits a candidate of national purpose and destiny against the candidate of personal enrichment and its attendant abuses. The road of progress and justly shared national development is a difficult one. A leader must be possessed of the requisite bravery and commitment to venture the path rarely taken. Hardship and events, neither of your own making or choosing, will come to test your mettle. Only the most intrepid and committed will continue the right direction in the face of such harsh realities. President Muhammadu Buhari has proven himself to be a man of such fortitude. Many have conveniently forgotten that the economy was in a steep downward trajectory before the Buhari administration experienced even its first day in office. The preceding administration embodied the ideals of a festive weekend party more than those of a serious political party. They spent all that came into hand and made no provision for the lean times tomorrow might bring. Lean times came, no doubt, when oil prices sunk to historic lows and revenues thinned as never before. But the Buhari administration navigated us through those difficult times in a way that has positioned us for a better, more prosperous period in the coming years. Imagine, if you will, the calamity that would have descended on us if the Buhari government had not come in when it did. Nothing would have been left in the treasury for the public cause. Buhari's government took a different approach. People have murmured his inaugural address statement that, I quote, "I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody," as being aimed at me. Well, I find that strange indeed, as those words were what I wanted him to say and wanted him to be. Unlike those whose stated policy is to enrich friends, Buhari took the noble position that it was better to help the millions of hardworking but anonymous Nigerians and the anonymous common folk instead of maintaining the national economy in the status of a festive party for a selected few. True to his word, President Buhari has achieved a lot in his time in office, despite our strained financial condition due to shrunken oil prices. Through focused policies, the Buhari administration has set the foundation for enduring growth of a diversifying economy, not unduly reliant on an increasingly unreliable foreign appetite for crude oil. Let our economy stand on its own feet and not be overly beholden to motorists in New York City, London, or Paris. I believe such sovereign economics are in the long term the soundest economics. The president has managed to return Nigeria to the path of growth. Our foreign exchange reserves have been rebuilt. Inflation has been brought under control, and our balance of trade steadily improved. These macroeconomic indicators point to an economy that, under the watchful eye of the president, is steadily recovering. But we must also recognize the positive economic statistics mean little to ordinary Nigerians striving to put food on their tables. Our party, the APC, is a party of compassion and progressivism. Despite the relatively meager revenues of this government compared to prior governments, the Buhari administration set out to do what the other governments cared not to do. That is, to give direct care to the nation's poorest and most put down people. Our primary school feeding program and monthly stipends for the poor feed millions, enable children to remain in school, and have energized local economies by creating several thousands of jobs while providing a measure of economic security to our poorest citizens. Agricultural reforms have created new jobs for millions of Nigerians and revitalized rural communities. Our trader money, market money, and farmer money schemes empower small business owners through easy access to the credit to grow their businesses. Food production and security have been enhanced. Costs have gone down as reflected in the table and stable inflation rate. Kitchen tables and children's stomachs have food, where once hunger was the certainty and food was the question mark. President Buhari took much criticism for regarding and for somewhat, in quote, tolerating the harder crisis. However, unlike all other presidents who turned away from the matter, President Buhari tackled it headlong because lives were being lost and property destroyed. His law enforcement policies brought peace and normalcy, and more than that, his economic assistance projects will create symbiotic relationship between cattle rearer and farmers. With cattle now confined to ranches, they will not trespass against farmland. Farmer incomes will increase as they provide the ranches with complementary feed. The ranches will help farmers through the supply of organic fertilizers, and we will all benefit because such cattle ranching will be healthier and better fed than roaming livestock. Further, leather production and associated industries will receive a boost. Through care and diligent policy, President Buhari is turning tragedy into a better way for prosperity. This is a trait of leadership, and this is a trait that has always been quite unfamiliar to President Buhari's opponents. At bottom, this election is about two divergent visions of a nation. Others want a return to the economy of favor for the rich and desperation for the rest. We want an economy for all Nigerians where each person will receive his full share of the abundance of the land according to his labor and social contributions. The achievements of the first 4 years of the Buhari administration represent the present. They show what can be done when compassion, vision, and courage combine into one. More importantly, they bear the promise of even greater things in the future if only we have the will to press forward to the greater Nigeria we all deserve. The APC's progressive policies are intended to build a stronger, fairer economy, and with the APC, Nigeria finally has the chance to reform the economy. The APC has started by providing a social safety net in order to save our poorest citizens, because we believe in a society where the forgotten are never truly forgotten. That same belief in human dignity and human capacity will fuel more ambitious economic reform during the next 4 years. Our new government must commit to constructing the infrastructure, generating, transmitting, and distributing the power, and supporting the businesses that will carry Nigeria towards a new, prosperous economic reality. The next administration will build and build and build on a scale never before seen in Africa. We will invest and invest and invest in our people and in our future. We will take Nigeria to the next level. This book, therefore, is dedicated to President Buhari, to APC, to Nigeria, and to victory. Thank you very much.
And so please take this second round of applause and please transmit that to the Ashiwaju. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, since 1859, when the first newspaper, Ìwé Ìròyìn fún àwọn Yorùbá àti àwọn ará Ẹ̀gbá, came into being, the Nigerian journalistic space have continued to serve as watchdog of democracy, enablers of healthy democracy, promoting unfettered political debate. And in this very long history, our book reviewer is a shining star. If you call him one of the poster boys of Nigerian journalism, you'll be right. Former editor of Daily Times, one of those apostles of Babatunde Joseph, former governor of Ogun State. Even in his very advanced age, he remains a very cherished journalist as far as this country is concerned. To review the book, please join us and welcome Chief Olusegun Oshoba.
Mr. President, please permit me to stand on the protocol well established. First of all, I want to thank you, and particularly the media team. Sir, on June 12, 1984, you appointed me and Tony Momo as the managing director of Daily Times, and Tony as the general manager of the Daily Times. Tony Momo reviewed your midterm from Daily Times. I'm now reviewing your 4 years. So I keep telling people that if anybody fails under President Buhari, it must be his fault and must be a careless person. Because when we were appointed throughout the tenure of General Buhari, he never one day invited either myself or Tony Momo for any audience or interfered whatsoever in what we were doing in the Daily Times. Tony Momo sacked almost half of the staff who are all MPN nominee in Daily Times. They complained bitterly to their head of state. He did not for one day interfere. Thank you very much, sir. I'm taking a radical departure from the norm in tasks of this nature. I have taken the liberty of starting from where I should have ended. My verdict. And it is that this huge compendium, Nigeria on firmer ground, towards lasting peace and progress, deserves not only to be read and digested by all Nigerians, young and old, it should also be kept as a treasure. My only concern is that it ought to have been issued far much earlier than now, when we're only less than 9 days to the presidential election. But with today's digital technology, I'm sure that the initiators, the presidential team, and their collaborators and technical partners will find the fastest means to make it accessible to a greater number of Nigerians at home and in the diaspora. That is, if they have already not done that, whilst getting the hard copies to the opinion-forming elite. Apparently, the compendial title was smartly derived from the foreword by the president himself, where he firmly concludes, and is right, that, I quote, "We have held our ground," unquote, "against the enemies of Nigeria, sustained peace, posterity, and progress." Permit me to quote extensively, and I beg you extensively, from the submission of the President Buhari Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari. And of course, forgive me, Abba Kyari is Oxbridge. He's from Cambridge University. So when the Cambridge University writes, you take notice. Abba Kyari, well positioned in the opening pages of the book as his commentary. And I quote him. This is extensive because it's virtually the review of the book. Consider where Nigeria was in 2015. Violent extremists threatening to establish a bloodthirsty criminal state inside our own borders. Even oil, our one export industry, was in total comatose, and a Wild West casino culture in government, where billion-dollar contracts were working, literally working, with impunity. Salaries, allowances, and pensions of public servants remained unpaid for years. funds that should have gone to support our soldiers were diverted into the swamp of a doomed political campaign. Contractors, godfathers, and politicians helped themselves to billions. And as a result, too many of those on the front line and those they should have had the means to protect were all killed. These were all the problems that this administration inherited. In many cases, for some of those now seeking to return to power, God forbid. Take the economy. God forbid is my own. That's not Abakari. I'm still quoting Abakari, please. Take the economy. In the boom years, for all, in 2000 to 2015, almost nothing was saved and almost nothing was invested. We did not even pay our cash calls to our partners, and you know better because it's in NNPC now. So when the oil price crashed in 2016, we had no spare capacity to boost production. We had no buffer to limit the shock, and no emerging industries to take the slack. As a result, there were difficult choices, but we chose to focus on agriculture and revive the fertilizer industry, which in turn helped provide millions of jobs in rural areas, take the pressure off our cities, and bring down our food import bill. I'm still quoting about. We also made it a priority for government to pay cash, prepare the cash calls, and to become a reliable partner in the industry that generates exports, the oil industry. On security, we call time on the license protection rackets in the Niger Delta and now have a sustainable peace. In the East, the siren calls of doom have been silenced. Violent extremists fleeing Iraq and Syria may be attracted to Nigeria, but we have reduced their capacity to that of a terror group that looks to steal and even blow up our children. Age-old tensions between farmers and herders, fueled by the irresponsible establishment of unregulated militias, is being brought under control, and long-term strategies for sustainable livestock and agricultural policies are being implemented. This government, the first to be genuinely elected with a rare mandate, is delivering for many and so many the only basis to strengthen our Commonwealth. And I'm a witness to this statement. In 2003, the voters in Ogun State were more than registered voters, almost double. The result was 1.6 million votes for President Obasanjo. So the rest of us who were governors in 2003, the total votes came to 1 million. Nobody could account for 600,000 votes. The then General Buhari went to court And the court threw out the total votes in Ogun State out of the presidential result. Not only was it thrown out, the court made damaging statement on a sitting president. It says the result in Ogun State were criminal in nature. It's not my word, the words of the court. Criminal in nature, with impunity, rigging, the kind of words that in other countries will have resulted in the impeachment of the sitting president. Because if the president had committed crime, the consequence is impeachment. So, Mr. President, you won 2003 election, you won 2007 election, they rigged it, there's no more room for rigging. So you had, what as Abba said here, Jenny elected with a real mandate. Is delivering for the many, the only basis to strengthen our commonwealth, where others talk and share our contracts, we are delivering on infrastructure. The building blocks for sustainable economic growth. There are no quick fixes to our condition. Effecting real change is unglamorous, painstaking and difficult. It does not immediately grab headlines or always yield instant results. It does not help that those vested interests looking to hang on to undeserved privileges, throw roadblocks in the way. Transition is unsettling. It is the nature of the journey that we do not fully appreciate the destination until we reach it. And we shall reach it by the grace of God. But deliverables are already there and stacking up. This is Abba Kyari verdict and his comment on this book. When I read that and I read the book, I went back and I said, what else am I going to review after all these extensive statements? But then there's still a lot to review. The evidences of those deliverables are what we find in this virtually delightful 482 pages of this compendium. 182 pages more than the one presented to mark 3 years of PMB administration. So Tony Momo, I'm doing better than you. Making steady, sustainable progress for Nigeria's peace and prosperity. More MDAs are featured in this edition. You will find in the compendium, among others, evidences of Nigeria's real green revolution. And that can be testified by the Rice Revolution. How the critical sectors of the economy are being driven to ensure sustained, inclusive, diversified growth for Nigeria's maximum welfare. The government's advancements in social investment, empower, school feeding, trader money, market money, and all. The impact of CBN anchor on borrowers, program on food security, and its forest policies in the economic outlook and market evidences, steady progress in the deployment of ICT nationwide, and how everything is being done by professionalized Nigeria's armed forces. For instance, the Nigerian Air Force attests that, quote, in the last 3 years, the federal government has facilitated an unprecedented increase in the number of NAF aircraft available for operation. The last time that the NAF was able to induct such a high number of new aircraft into service was in the 80s. This is a quotation from the NAF itself. That is why they are swearing, and they will continue to swear. The Commonwealth Secretary General Baroness Patricia Janet is quoted in the section on the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, EFCC. And I quote Janet, we were very proud in the Commonwealth, he said, I continue to quote, when President Muhammadu Buhari graced us by coming to the Tackling Corruption Together conference in May 2016. It was originally typed 2019 in the book. I hope our reader will correct themselves on that. And I don't think anyone will forget. I'm still quoting her. When they asked him, that's when they asked President Buhari, what do you want out of this conference? And President Buhari replied and he said, I want my money. I want my money back. I want my money back to the people of Nigeria. And I'm still quoting Janet, and this has been a matter of great pride. Great pride, not to me alone, not to you in Nigeria, but this is Janet saying, this is a great pride to us in Commonwealth that we have been able to assist Nigeria in getting its money back. And in 1 year, Nigeria has managed to get back more money than it has got back in 10 years before now. After President Muhammadu Buhari asked for the Nigerian money, they've gotten more, 10 times what they have ever gotten in the past. And that is money that can go to schools and housing and roads. And I hope that we will get even more money back together. And I do applaud everything that EFCC is doing. I really applaud the acting chairman because of the work that he has been able to do. And that is quotation from the Commonwealth Secretary General. And I'm quoting from the book. How has the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board been able to record its unprecedented and breathtaking changes? That's a body where gargantuan snakes were swallowing billions of naira. I hope you remember that snakes were swallowing money from jam. How has the Erosion, Flood and Coastal Management Department of the Federal Ministry of Environment been able to keep land degradation in check? How has the Federal Capital Territory, FCTA, been able to keep our capital alive, livable, and welcoming, even with less funds? Have the ministries, departments, and agencies complied with the principle of federal character? You will find the answers in the compendium, whether as figures or an illustrating images. In the compendium, you will also find how the Ministry of Finance has rebooted the economy through its whistleblower policy, efficiency unit, voluntary assets and income declaration scheme, treasury single account, and other initiatives. You will find how pensioners are now being treated. Example was what I read in the paper either yesterday or today of Nigerian Airways pensioners adopting President Buhari as their candidate because he did not bribe them, he paid them their rights. He restored their dignity as self-esteem. Thank you, Mr. President. how Nigeria's health needs are being addressed roundly to achieve results. What government is doing to make Nigeria less dependent on oil, and the monumental changes taking place in the department agencies of the Ministry of Interior towards building a solid, sustainable internal security. I can go on and on to talk on all the other ministries, but I won't want to waste too much of your time because I was going to do 15 minutes. I've now done about 17 minutes. I don't want to go on. What on farmer ground proves is that the PMB administration is firmly taking Nigeria on a steady march to being a virile nation. And on a spiritual note, this is my first spiritual note. I'm going to give you a final spiritual note. It is my strong belief that the Almighty gave us Muhammadu Buhari, a man of towering integrity, to help Nigeria restore the years that the swarming locust, the crawling locust, the chewing locust had eaten deep into our fabric and our nation. May we never return to those years. Never and ever again. Now, my second spiritual thing is this. Yesterday, the Alaki of Egbaland did a test run on the train between Lagos and Abeokuta. His forefather, decades ago, in the early of this century, did the same thing. Now, for me, 65 years ago, I used to travel from Osogbo to Abeokuta by train. And see, the president is the son of Ogun State. Because like me, he told me once, he used to travel from the north to Ifo to spend his holidays with his uncle. Now, Mr. President, I'm going to present you a picture of me on the train 61 years ago, 1958. That train went dead. Today, I can testify, sir, that I have gone on food inspection to see the train, the track has now reached Abeokuta. Mr. President, I'm going to present you this picture. This is me 61 years ago on a train track that you two used to take to Ifo. That was dead and you have restored it. In Ogun State, we shall pay you back with votes. Mr. President, I once told you that we in Yoruba land are following you because of your philosophy, not because of your person. Your feeling for the Tarakawas, which is the same with our political father, Awolowo, whose philosophy is welfareism and egalitarianism. You've restored that, and we'll continue to follow you because we are following you purely on policy and your beliefs. Your vice president is the son of an Awoist. He was born into Awoism. He himself is Awoist. He is married to Awo, so he's Awo, and is propagating your philosophy of helping the downtrodden with the trader money. Those calling it vote buying, they are fools because the money is being paid back. If you pay back your 10,000, you get 15,000, up to 100,000. The money is paid back. So how can that be vote buying? The money is back to the treasury, to TSA. Mr. President, we want to thank you for that philosophy which gels with Bapa Awolowo philosophy of egalitarianism and welfareism. Thank you, Mr. President. I assure you, in Ogun State, we have two major reasons to vote massively for you. One, the train is back to Abeokuta. It is the center of commerce. We are the center of commerce for the whole of Ogun State. 2, the express road is vital for the whole world of the western zone of this country. It's almost completed. For those 2 reasons, Mr. President, you don't need to spend any money for anybody. We shall voluntarily pay you back with votes and massively too, sir. But please, security. We need massive security because the chief conspirator of those conspiring against your philosophy is from Ogun State. Thank you very much.
That was Chief Olusegun Oshoba, a veteran journalist and, of course, former governor of Ogun State, southwest Nigeria. If there's anything that is uppermost in the heart of this present administration, they say it is driving the economy's critical sectors to ensure sustainable, inclusive, diversified growth for Nigerians' maximum welfare. And that is glaring in every sector of the economy, especially the agriculture, and of course, in security.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, from our program, we'll probably be able to take only one goodwill message, and that will be coming from the Honorable Minister of Power, Works and Housing, represented here by the MD and CEO of FEMA, Engineer Nuruddin A. Rafindadi, to please step forward here and deliver the goodwill message.
Mr. President, National Chairman of our party, honorable members of the Federal Executive Council here present, the chairman of the occasion. My name is Engineer Nuruddin Rafindadi, Managing Director of the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency. Here today to present the goodwill message of the Honorable Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, SAN. And I quote, "If ever there was a time to set Nigeria on very firm ground, that time is upon us now, and we fail to act at our own peril. After many decades of stops and starts and missed opportunities, Nigeria has to get it right now. Happily, there is a leader for Nigeria at this moment, a moment that calls for tough decision-making and the courage to challenge the debilitating status quo. And that leader is Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic, elected on a mandate of change, anchored on the promise to secure our nation, fight corruption, and diversify our economy. This book, Nigeria on Firmer Ground Towards Lasting Peace and Progress, chronicles the acts, the policies, the programs, and projects that have been taken, initiated, undertaken, and implemented towards building an enduring Nigeria. When Nigerians voted for the message of change and handed President Muhammadu Buhari the mandate to pilot the affairs of Nigeria, little did they know how urgent the need for change was and how dire the affairs of Nigeria were back in 2015. True enough, the Ministry of Finance and at that time the Coordinating Ministry for Nigeria's Economy had warned in 2014 that the economy was heading towards stormy waters. It was not until I resumed as Minister of Power, Works and Housing that the reality set in. From the outside, we had heard that the capital provision in annual budgets of 4 trillion naira were only about 15%. What we later found out was that only about 19 billion was budgeted for Nigeria's roads network of about 200,000 kilometers that were urgently in need of repairs, upgrade, and reconstruction. This was only about 1/3 then of the budget of Lagos State for roads in 2015, which was 70 billion. We found out that the contractors had not been paid for years, and many had laid off workers, shut down plants and equipment, and along with it, the ancillary economy of fuel, lubricants, labor, cement, steel, quarry work, and transportation that drives the value chain of the job creation and decent livelihood. The knock-on effect was that journeys that should take minutes took hours, if not days. And the consequence was high transportation costs that was passed through to the cost of goods and services and cost of living. True to his mandate, President Buhari changed this. With dwindling revenues, he showed courage by increasing the budget size from 4 trillion to 6 trillion in 2016, committing 30%, which is double of the previous 15%, to capital expenditure. This has increased to 8 trillion in 2018, with 30% committed to capital expenditure. The results are becoming manifest. Construction workers that were laid off have been recalled, and even more have been employed. Idle plants and machinery are now running. Their drivers and operators are back to work. Demand for fuel and lubricants is back, and suppliers are responding to keep them in operation. One of our contractors ordered 600 tires in a single day. Another reported that demand for bitumen and asphalt is exceeding supply. Yet another contractor reported that for the first time in 10 years, their overdraft had been fully repaid and they could now renegotiate new borrowing terms. Construction firms quoted on the stock exchange have made profit and distributed dividends to their shareholders for the first time in a long time. Quarry operators are back to work and the mining industry is back to life. Today, there is no state in Nigeria where at least one federal road construction work is not being undertaken. A pilot housing project is being executed in 34 states where land had been provided, and they are utilizing made-in-Nigeria building materials, including cement, iron rods, doors, windows, roofing sheets, and more. The Purchasing Managers Index is rising constantly, a testimony to resurgence of manufacturing. Shipping companies, clearing agents, and warehouse operators have benefited from the decision to clear and utilize 800 containers of power equipment abandoned at the ports for almost 10 years due to lack of payment. Those equipment have been deployed to projects like the Kaduna Power Plant and dozens of transmission substations to ensure that they are completed. The conversation has changed across the states from there is no federal presence in my state to when are you going to complete the project? This is welcome change by the Buhari government as mandated by Nigerians. The economy has recovered from the foretold recession. It has grown consecutively almost every quarter since that recovery. What remains now is to multiply the growth and deliver prosperity on a massive scale by reducing cost of transportation when the roads are completed. This will result in a reduction in the cost of doing business and consequently in the prices of goods and services. The next level of this journey is the massive creation of manufacturing jobs, agriculture-based jobs, and maintenance jobs for artisans and craftsmen through the National Infrastructure Maintenance Policy. The commitment of the Buhari government to infrastructure follows a time-tested and proven method of wealth creation, wealth distribution, and delivery of prosperity. Infrastructure defines the status of nations on the scale of global assessment. It is a critical barometer that sets rich and poor nations apart. It is the measure of development and underdevelopment. On behalf of the staff of the Ministry of Power, Work and Housing, I express gratitude for the privilege of being the head of their team of change agents who have received enormous and unqualified support from Mr. President and his cabinet. Truly, the foundations that place Nigeria on firmer grounds have been laid in the last 45 months. The next 4 years can only yield a shared national prosperity, create jobs, reduce prices, and deliver lasting peace and progress. That is the next level. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Just before that goodwill message, I did mention something on the agricultural sector, which is the main thing that this present administration is on, and of course the security sector, which has the greatest political will, commitment, and support of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Muhammadu Buhari, to the primacy of national security, which accounts for the remarkable successes so far being recorded by the Nigerian Armed Forces against insecurity and insurgency in the northern part of the country.
Welcome to the podium, the chairman of APC. Please welcome Comrade Adams Oshamale.
It has to come to my level. Your Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, Your Excellencies, former governors, are already in trouble. Honorable Minister of FCT, who is our landlord, the Chief of Staff without Bini beads, and former Senate President, former Governor of Ogun State, former editor, now an oppressor, Secretary to Government of the Federation. It's only today I know your middle name, that your middle name is Gida. So, boss, Gida means you are the boss of the family. So, your prayers for salt today. But let me appreciate also the representative of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and my distinguished comrade. Mr. President, I'm excited, but I have one disadvantage. I wasn't told early enough, so I didn't write anything. So I'm full of envy when I see people writing. But that means if I say anything and it's not right, I can deny it because it's not written. But Your Excellency, I am very proud to be part of your team, as chairman of our great party. And that has given me a very rare opportunity and privilege to have access to you much more than an average party man. And this season, it has also provided me with the opportunity and privilege of following you around the country, listening to you and hearing people and watching the faces and side comments by the very ordinary Nigerian. And now I'm very proud that I am the chairman of a governing party with President Muhammadu Buhari as the chief of state. I just want to say that before now, Nigerians have rightly wondered aloud what is the difference between one government and the other. So when you talk about change, some thought it was change from one good luck to Buhari. I know I almost say good luck to another kind of luck. But I think it is increasingly clearer now to people the essence of the change that you promised, arising from some attempt to evaluate the outcome
of the effort you have invested in your commitment to effect the change that Nigeria badly needs if we are to survive as a sovereign nation state. And of the three key commitments and promises you made to Nigerians, the one that connects the other two is corruption. And I listen to you each time you've had to talk about it. You remind us of your first effort, where you had both the judicial, the executive, and even the legislative powers, where everybody who was seen with something that doesn't belong to him was rightly put away and asked to prove himself innocent, the one in which you can only, at best, proclaim somebody a suspect. But that battle against corruption is at the heart of the change agenda. There is nothing you have done in terms of new policies that are different. What is different is the effort you are making to ensure that when government make a policy pronouncement, it is sustained. Now, what has been the problem? Why, when you talk to organized private sector, and I have been very much close, or I have interacted with them over the years, even when I was president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, they talk about policy incoherence and policy instability and policy inconsistencies. At the heart of this is not lack of knowledge on the part of those who make the laws in the morning and change them in the evening. At the heart of that is the impact and the influence and the role of corruption. I had the opportunity, or was it a burden, to accuse one of your predecessors and the first president that this current democracy produced, who come from a state where the book reviewer come from. And I said to him, sir, then I was very free. I didn't have to talk with any inhibition. The more I affect big people, the better for me, because the people I represent need to see me harassing those who are oppressing them. And I said to him on a May Day in Lagos, I said, sir, you emphasize the need to diversify the Nigerian economy. Every government, every president, every minister, every analyst keep reminding us of the need to move away from a monocultural economy to a diversified economy with less reliance on oil. So everybody knows it. What is the problem? Now, in pursuance of this principle, the then president from where Shegu come from, today I'm a bit of a coward, I'm not able to mention names. He prohibited importation of textile fabrics, certain categories of textile fabrics. And as a result of this pronouncement, the Chinese, the Indians, the Lebanese, and several nationalities who have invested in Nigeria, because there was a time when, based on economic theory, the most important thing that defines, that makes Nigeria different from other countries is our huge population. So we have a huge domestic market. So if public policy seeks to satisfy our domestic needs, and industries respond by providing goods and services to meet those needs, the level of job creation will increase, the number of people earning money will increase, poverty will disappear, and prosperity will flourish. Now, on this basis, one of your predecessors prohibited the number of importation of items, including textile fabrics. But then he has friends from his own party whose business was smuggling. And when they have amassed a lot of trucks in Sime border, incidentally very close to Shegu Oshoba State, Gateway, and some other one in Niger, this predecessor decided to grant waiver for what was prohibited in the morning to become lawful in the evening. And I had the God to ask him, why reduce Nigeria to a duty-free country? Because what it meant is that because the goods are prohibited, there is no tariffs on it. So when you then issue executive order to now allow the prohibited items to come in, it means they have come in without duties being paid, and therefore they are cheaper than the goods produced in Nigeria. That is how the textile industry was destroyed. And I had the guts to ask your predecessor, rather than create one monopoly supra-smuggler, why not decentralize smuggling? Now, if you ask me, was that an error of the head or was it an error of the heart? My answer is straightforward. It was the result of pressure arising from big-time people who have money to manipulate the levers of power. Mr. President, before you, your predecessors remind us that no country is safe if it relies on imported products. Whether it was MPN Green Revolution or one of your immediate or not too long ago predecessor, they all remind us of the need for us to return to agriculture. And if you look at past budget, huge sums of money was allocated to agriculture. In fact, there was a particular budget that the money allocated to agriculture was so large that I had cause to ask one of your predecessors, if you don't have federal government land, how come you have so much money allocated at the federal level for agriculture? Where are your farms? Where are the farmers? And the business of importing fertilizer became an end in itself. And sir, one of the statements I made on your assumption of office in trying to dismiss previous effort was to say that how could you identify food security as an issue and you encourage farmers to go back to the land? On the other hand, you have a policy that says if you have a rice miller, yes, then you can have license to import a certain quantity of rice. And one of the panel that I participated in tried to understand the way the custom was operating before now. We had the custom general who told us that whereas they granted an importer a certain quantity of rice to import into the country, he exceeded the quantity that he was supposed to have imported into the country. Now my question, what could have made a president or a minister of agriculture or anybody working around those issues to recognize the need to encourage Nigerian farmers to produce rice, on the other hand, grant waiver or grant import license for people to import, in this case, most of the time, expired rice, even though they themselves acknowledge that some of the rice were poisonous? I ask the question, could this have been error of the head or error of the heart? My answer, it is error of the heart as a result of corruption. Because when the people who make cheap money from importation of rice mount pressure around the levers of power, they gave in and you have those policy contradictions. I'm sure one of the reports that Your Excellency had to deal with was the fact that a former Controller General of Customs was going about from one market to the other in different parts of the country, chasing people, and your immediate predecessor claimed that federal government was shortchanged to the tune of over 20 billion in custom duties that were not paid for rice that were imported. So, sir, when, as we speak today, you look the people, the affairs, and you remind us that now are as much as 90% self-sufficient in rice production. What it means is that the total sum, if you look at the books, I don't have the numbers, whatever it used to cost us to import rice, if it is 100 billion naira or 200 billion naira a year, that 200 billion is now transferred to the pocket of rural farmers that are producing rice. And that is how poverty is fought in rural communities, not lamenting the fact of rural poverty, and therefore putting an end to rural-urban migration. Why has it not happened before now? Because of corruption. We could go on and on and on. I see, I didn't know that Oshoba was so handsome when he was very young. I saw those pictures. Nice guy. I can understand why you have such a beautiful wife. But just to say again that when you remind us of how you take train to Ifo and how Sheguti train from one area to the other, I remember also taking train from Kaduna Junction to Idu in Lagos. And because I was so small, I think I'm still relatively small, each time I sit where sometimes I have privilege to sit. I can look up and I see the difference. But I have to carry something to say, my name is Oshomole Adams Aliu, so that the person who is going to pick me from the train station can identify me. So how can we explain that when we had less graduates, we had less money, we had a rate that was functioning, and day after day, the system collapsed, there was no investment in infrastructure. Some of us are not product of Cambridge like Abba, but everybody understands that the road to sustainable economic growth and development is details that you must first and foremost invest in infrastructure, which is what I believe this book has captured substantially. But what I also want to explain is that why people are accusing you that why are we giving trader money, market money? It is because it is not the tradition to give small money to the poor. The tradition is to issue fake import claims to people who purport to import PMS, all sorts of things into the country, and they go and process the papers, they are certified by Nigerian auditors, they become instant millionaires. Those are okay. But the only one you also forgot is that there is workers' money and pensioners' money. Because that is important to me. Because, sir, you are the first president in Nigeria history to face governors or public sector employers and ask them, how can you sleep when you have not paid your workers 1 year salary? It is not the business of a comfortable president to remember that some people are not paid. No, it's not the tradition. For you, it is an issue. But you didn't stop lamenting it. You then say, let me give you workers' money, bailout. Like I was asked Professor Sibajo, I said, my only reservation is that this bailout, you bail out both hardened criminals and not so hardened. Because even in law, you don't grant bail to a well-known serial offender. But Mr. President, you have given bailout even to opposition parties who mismanage their funds. You have shown that as a statesman, whereas we belong to different political parties, your responsibility as president of Nigeria transcends party limits. If you ask me who had the opportunity or was it a body to preside over one of the federated states of the federation, I found that your predecessors didn't have that kind of large heart, that things were given depending on which party you belong to. There are many things that in 10 minutes we can itemize to show the changes that you have brought about. But much more important, and this is the last point I will make, you have tried consciously to eliminate what I have had cause to protest about when I was president of Nigeria Labour Congress. But you can't have a country where there is no relationship between effort and reward. To reconcile effort and reward is to eliminate free money in the system, rent-seeking money in the system. And to the extent that people are complaining now, those who travel often, they will have observed two things. The first is that Nigeria became the only country where you want to board British Airways and you have first-class passengers being downgraded to economy because the first class is oversubscribed. In other countries, usually you upgrade regular travelers to first class. But because of free money, you have a young man, his young wife, and 3 young children. All of them occupy half of British Airways first-class cabin because of free money that was accruing. And those who are complaining today about challenges, about difficulties, yes, if you were living on pause source of income, and President Buhari's anti-corruption logic has created a kind of disconnect, and that gap has been narrowed or completely eliminated, of course, the lifestyle that is not based on productivity, on input, cannot be sustained. And therefore, to that extent, we should have no apology for Nigerians who are saying things are hard. They have to be hard. Mr. President, my last story, I went to the UK and I visited a friend who worked in a shop. And he asked me, what is happening in Nigeria? This is about 6 months or 9 months into your government. And I said, no, nothing is happening. He said, no, in this shop, we have lost a lot of Nigerian customers. And usually this is where they buy the most expensive shoes and top-end products, whether they are Italia suits and so on and so forth, and Louis Vuitton bags, etc., etc. But now you look around, you don't find them. So the market has crashed. And he said, but I heard that you have a new government. I said, oh, okay, yes, that's fine. Because I didn't know what the matter was. And he said, there must be something right that new government is doing. Because without free money, this is the only country where you find young girls, 24 years old, 2 years, or even a student, undergrad, carry Louis Vuitton, carry on bag. In other countries, you don't find it. So, Mr. President, to reorientate our consumption, our value system, which is what the change is about, change of character, change of attitude, renew commitment to productivity. Those are not changes that we go without pay. So what some people are going through is a withdrawal syndrome. There must be pain because we got addicted, so sophisticated in our consumption, even as we were so primitive in our production. Now you are reconciling the two. Over time, Nigeria cannot be the same again. And that is the reason we talk about moving from where we are to the next level. May God help us to achieve it.
And now to the day's business, which is the presentation of a book titled Nigeria, a non-firmer ground towards lasting peace and progress by our former Senate President, Ken Nnamani. And just before then, it is worthy of note that a former information minister and pro-chancellor and chairman, Governing Council University of Jos, Prince Tony Mama, who reviewed the book, described it as incredibly clean and well-researched, as well as carefully packaged.
The former Senate President, distinguished Senator Ken Nnamani, to step forward here and formally present the book.
Let me hold it on. Your Excellency, Mr. President, the chairman of our party, Comrade Adams Oshimole, honorable ministers here present, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, team of media men and women, and the bosses of support groups. You can see why our party is very lively. We have a chairman who is a nightmare to other political parties. And at the same time, we have a president who is indeed the envy of other political parties. Not only that he has the charisma, but other political parties have difficulty finding fault in our president as a candidate. My task here is very, very simple. In fact, it's simplest. The book reviewer had a more onerous task. Mine is to unveil it. Instead of calling it a compendium, I would like to call it an encyclopedia. And I'm sure so many people are anxious to see it. That masquerade over there. But before I do that, I will simply add that in our country, the easiest thing that doesn't require intelligence is that of criticizing. You don't need to be intellectually sound to criticize anything. It doesn't require too much thinking. Why I'm saying this is because if we have had the privilege of seeing that encyclopedia, maybe the critics would have been fewer, because I had the privilege of browsing through what I think indeed the compendium of rare achievements by this government, which reflects the integrity, the uprightness, and the general understanding of our situation, as shown by the leadership. By the way, I'm told that the compendium is already online. So if you don't have enough space in your library, you can access every information there online. And that is because Mr. President has assembled a crack media team that have done a very fantastic job. You know, we have very vicious opponents who are media specialists, but I think they've made their match in the media team of our State House. Adeshina and the Sheikh Ugaba and the rest of them are well tested. They are veterans, like you described Oshoba as a veteran. We have new and upcoming veterans. So we are I feel greatly honored to be associated with the event this evening, to unveil something that shows integrity, something that shows truthfulness, something that shows faith in our country. Because to put things on paper, as our chairman said, if you are afraid of being misquoted or anything, you put it down in writing. What is contained in the compendium is a summary of activities of this very government. And I hope those that the habitual critics will find time to browse through the summary of activities. And some of the answers to the questions being raised can be found in that encyclopedia. So, Mr. President, you enjoy what is called natural endowment. Each time we go out on rally, the crowd, the people that are aspiring to see you and wave hand at you, it's not because of your too much eloquence or other characteristics. I think it's a natural gift. There's no Nigerian. I'm not sure we have any Nigerian today that has the capacity of pulling crowd, genuine crowd, people that you don't pay a kobo, but they walk long distance in order to come and watch our presidential candidate. And of course, you listen to the party chairman. As I described this as a nightmare of other parties, because he has already made answers. And the way he will present it, you cannot but pay attention to him. Then we have some ministers in this administration that have really performed exceedingly well. When we have time to go through the compendium of the achievements of this administration, you find out that the difference between engine oil and iodine. Iodine is very painful. If you had a cut and you put iodine on it, it cures it, but it's very, very painful. Engine oil does the same job, but it's not painful. We have people who don't talk too much, but they perform. That is the thing you will find out in the compendium. The LGF and his own team, the contribution by the Chief of Staff, quite a classic. You cannot but read the summary twice because of the Queen's English and the way it's been presented. So I think those of us in APC, we have every good reason to be proud of our candidates, particularly our president, and what he has accomplished so far. Not only that he has restored hope in Nigeria. Yes, as the chairman said, it has to be tough starting. there's a need for him to have more time to build on the firm foundation that he has laid. And that 4 years remaining for him, which is constitutional, he's not asking for third term. He's asking for... I don't want to go into that because Oshoba is here. And it will be like we are just pointing at Oshoba, at everything we are saying. But he knows, as I do, that his state produced people who would like to... okay, I'll stop at that point. But... So I'm going to carry out the assignment that is very, very simple for me to unveil this. And it's good you get the hard copy. And of course, those of you that are digital enough, and some of us that are analog, we can work on the hard copy. We work on the digital aspect of it. But it's something that all Nigerians, all schools, all critics should go through and find out if your criticism is right or wrong. Thank you very much.
Please to join the former Senate President to move over there to unveil. Let me welcome the following, the chairman of the party. Please rise and join us up here. Let me welcome the FCT Minister, the Chief of Staff, Chief Tony Momo, the NSA, the representative of the Honorable Minister of Power, Works and Housing, and the representative of Ashiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to please rise and join him. And then the SGF, please. The SGF, please. Chief Shegun Oshoba, please join us.
Of Almighty God, the maker of heaven and earth, we unveil this to the general knowledge of Nigerians, both at home and abroad. In the mighty name of Lord Jesus Christ, I pray. And so we would like to invite His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to join this team now. Your Excellency.
And so, Your Excellencies, the rest will step down as I invite His Excellency the President to deliver his address. Please be seated. Please be seated.
The national chairman of APC, former governor and Makurdi chief Olusegun Oshoba, secretary to the government, former Senate president and book presenter, Senator Ken Inamani, members of the Federal Executive Council present here, the Chief of Staff, senior government officials, distinguished members of the Buhari Support Organization, Buhari Media Organization, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be here on the occasion of the presentation of the book, in quote, Nigeria on Farmer Ground Towards Lasting Peace and Progress. Coming just a week to the commencement of the 2019 general elections, there is no doubt that today's event is very significant as the electorate is being offered more insight into the achievements of all Progressive Congress APC administration since we came into office in 2015. From accounts of all the earlier speakers and what can be gleaned from the book, supported by veritable facts and figures on projects and programs implemented in almost every state of the Federation, it is clear that our administration has delivered substantially on our campaign promises. Riding on the wave of the change agenda, which we anchored on making positive impact in the three priority areas of security, economy, and fighting corruption, I am convinced that we have made real progress and we are poised to do more by taking Nigeria to the next level of development, prosperity, peace, and stability. We are also poised to make life-changing progress in infrastructure, agriculture, social investments, and much more. From returning the economy to sustainable growth, degrading Boko Haram terrorists, boldly confronting the monster called corruption. History will remember this administration as one that did what it promised and charted the path for a future which can all be proud of. Going around the country in the first weeks on our campaign stops, I believe that our message emphasizes the need to stick to the winning team and not to risk returning our country to irresponsible leadership at any level of government. Their stock in trade is the avaricious plunder of our national assets and resources, and ordinary Nigerians are quite aware of their conduct in government. Our simple message to the Nigerian electorate is to give us 4 more years to build and consolidate on the foundations we have painstakingly laid so that we shall all reap the benefits of what we have planted in all the sectors of our society. We have proved better managers of our national assets and the limited resources available to us than past administrations. And we are committed to entrenching higher levels of accountability and transparency in the years ahead, as the nation prepares to give her citizens the opportunity to choose their leaders and representatives in the next few weeks. I urge all Nigerians to exercise their civic duty in an atmosphere of peace and security. Let me remember that elections will come and go, but we need a country in which to live. I am appealing to our youth: do not allow yourselves to be used by desperate politicians to violate the sanctity of the ballot and endanger our country. I assure you that the security agencies will protect you as you go out to vote without fear of violence or molestation. Let me commend the presidential media team, the Buhari Media Organization, and the other stakeholders for helping Nigerians to understand more of what this administration has done by producing this book and presenting it to the public. I thank you for your kind attention. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I'd like to very quickly, before the national anthem, members of the Buhari Media Organization are invited here to step up and have a good photograph with His Excellency the President. All right, so Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem, please. Remain where you are, please. The national anthem. I understand everybody in the hall will get a copy of the book. The national anthem, please. The Brigade of Guards, national anthem. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And it is on that note, we call it a day on the program of event of the presentation of the book titled Nigeria on Firmer Ground Towards Lasting Peace and Progress, a book put together by the presidential media team. venue has been the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa, Abuja. And just before we go, a reminder that the 462-page book is already online. Another plus of the present administration. On behalf of the outside broadcast crew and colleagues at the dumpsite, I remain sincerely yours, KG Busari Ahmed. Good evening.